Former NBA player and wellness advocate Jarnell Stokes is the owner of Stoked Superfoods. Stoked Superfoods brings the purest form and highest quality products to those who want to turn the tables and take responsibility for their health. Educate people on the power of returning to nature and the holistic inner self. Our products cannot heal any disease alone, but we're here to assist in the healing process for both the mind and body. Stoked Superfoods are highly recommended. For more information, please click on the link in my description box below.
Master and slave relationship.
This is Curt Flood, baseball's Bolshevik.
He was public enemy number one.
What started as a routine trade has become a dedicated effort to change the structure of baseball.
In late 1969, a center fielder named Curt Flood was traded from St. Louis to Philadelphia. He refused to go and decided to fight America's pastime.
Baseball owners say the move could spell disaster.
There's no question about it. It's the worst thing that has ever happened to baseball.
Curt Flood's legacy is that he gave his life for a lot of baseball players who don't know who he is.
He helped to change the way they do business. Every day you read the sports page, whether his name is in there or not, Curt's there.
What I really want out of this thing is to give every ball player the chance to be a human being and to take advantage of the fact that we live in a free and democratic society. Me as a black man, I'm probably a lot more sensitive to the rights of other people because I have been denied these rights.
When you think of an athlete making his own moves and having control over his career, you think of LeBron James. A man who these coaches and these owners can't run, and they hate him because of that. But before LeBron James, there was Curt Flood. Curt Flood was a three-time All-Star who led the league in hits multiple times. And he was a rider, just like his mom. Curt's mom almost got herself into some trouble out there in Houston, Texas. Curt's mom was disrespected and slapped in the face by a white woman. So she slapped her back. Now, out of fear of her and her family being lynched, they had to leave Texas. And they went to Oakland, California. And that's where Curt learned the game of baseball. Curt grew up and went on to be a star and played in the major leagues. In 1969, Curt declined a trade to Philadelphia. Athletes in this time going against ownership was something unheard of. In this era of baseball, they had something called the reserve clause. The reserve clause was part of a contract which stated the rights of the players were retained by the team upon the contract's expiration. Players under these contracts were not free to enter any contract with another team. This clause gave the owners 100% complete control over these players' careers. And Curt felt like the players should have more say-so over their careers. I mean, why shouldn't they? When the Tennessee Titans legend Steve Air McNair was at the end of his career, the Titans was trying to make room for national champ quarterback Vince Young.
Corner! He's got it!
Steve Air McNair, during the offseason, went to the Titans facility for a workout, and they kicked this man out. They told him that he had to leave. See, they was planning on trading Steve McNair. Now, after all that he's done for the franchise, all of these injuries, all the blood, sweat, and tears, they were just about to toss this man to the road. It's a business. So, these owners don't have to be loyal to you. But folks want the players to be loyal. I don't understand it. It's crazy. You can dislike LeBron all you want, but a lot of people hate that man due to his power. That's slave mentality, folks. That's slave mentality. Curt Flood was able to take his issue to the Supreme Court. And although he lost, he got the ball rolling for everybody. He opened the eyes of many players, and they now realize, yeah, these owners, they have way too much control over my life. Curt's actions also brought in the Curt Flood rule, which is the 10 and 5 rule. The Curt Flood rule, if you played in MLB for 10 years and you played with the same team for 5 years, then they had to give you the green light to be traded if you wanted. You had that consent. And in 1970, Oscar Robertson and many players from the NBA fought for their free agency, and they won. And in 1975, the MLB ended their reserve clause. And this is Curt Flood's letter to Bowie Kuhn, who was the commissioner of baseball in 1969. Dear Mr. Kuhn, after 12 years in the major leagues, I do not feel that I am a piece of property to be bought and sold irrespective of my wishes. I believe that any system which produces that result violates my basic rights as a citizen and is inconsistent with the laws of the United States and of several states. It is my desire to play baseball in 1970, and I am capable of playing. I have received an offer from the Philadelphia club, but I believe I have the right to consider offers from other clubs before making any decision. I therefore request that you make known to all major league clubs my feelings in this matter and advise them of my availability for the 1970 season. Please like the History with No Chaser Facebook and Instagram pages. Thanks for watching. Make sure you hit the thumbs up, make sure you subscribe, and let me know what you think in the comment section.
Involves the trade of Curt Flood from St. Louis to Philadelphia. That case for Flood is being argued.
It was so difficult for the fans to understand my problems with baseball. I was telling my story to deaf ears because I was telling my story to a person who would give their firstborn child to be doing what I was doing. And he just could not understand how there could be anything possibly wrong with baseball.
For nearly 3 years, Curt Flood had been in the courts, fighting a one-man battle with Major League Baseball over the reserve clause. Despite the advice of the Players' Union, he had left the game in 1969 rather than be traded against his will.
What I told him was that I agreed with him in principle, but that the courts had treated players as property and would likely do so again, and that his attempt, while a principled one, was, I thought, doomed to failure. And I worried about his knowing the kinds of chances he was taking, that he was going to end his career in a case that probably was a loser.
The lawyers for the major leagues would not talk for the cameras, but in the courtroom they argued that the reserve clause is essential to the future of organized baseball, that without the reserve clause, all the rich teams would get all the star players. But Arthur Goldberg maintains that the reserve clause, tying a player to one team for the rest of his life, is in violation of the 13th Amendment. That's the amendment against slavery and indentured servitude.
Flood's first trial had been in federal district court in Manhattan in 1970.
I think Curt Flood on the stand was treated miserably by the federal judge. He almost taunted him a judge who showed great respect for almost all witnesses who were white. From the bench, the judge asked Curt Flood, this is not as easy as playing center field, is it? You know, with a sarcastic tone in the middle of a difficult cross-examination.
No active player dared testify on his behalf. Only owner Bill Veeck and a handful of retired stars came to Flood's defense.
Jackie Robinson walked into the courtroom, and there was a hush. He had such a presence that you could hear a pin drop. His hair was white, and he was walking with a cane, but he still had that swagger that Jackie Robinson was so noted for. But he testified in my behalf, and with a soliloquy that would send chills up and down my spine.
Flood lost in district court and then lost again in the Court of Appeals. And on June 18, 1972, by a vote of 5-3, the United States Supreme Court ruled against him. Baseball was still exempt from antitrust laws, and the reserve clause still stood.
I am particularly pleased that the court has recognized the need for a reserve system and has further recognized that baseball has not disregarded the extremely important position the player occupies. Over the long history of baseball, the reserve system has constantly evolved to improve the position of the player. I am confident that this process will continue.
We lost because my guys, my colleagues, didn't stand up with me. And I can't make any excuse for them. Had we shown any amount of solidarity, if the superstars had stood up and said, we're with Curt Flood, if the superstars had walked into the courtroom in New York and made their presence known, I think that the owners would have gotten the message very clearly and given me a chance to win that.
Curt Flood never played Major League Baseball again.